move on to our next one, which is it was a mill conversion, and this was a job that was done on the cheap. So we didn't have the money to pay for a site survey. So we were given the task to pop down there one afternoon, just two of us, no survey equipment except a tape measure and a camera, and produce a survey of this building that we then worked up into an outline planning proposal. And the way that we did that is that we just converted the photographs from their perspective, their natural perspective, to be plain orthogonal photographs using Photoshop, or actually I use PaintShop Pro, I think, in this case, but Photoshop would work just as well. And they're turned off at the moment, the photographs, but if we turn them on, we can see that we just adjusted the scale of the photographs, and I've moved one of them out of the way here so you can see the relationship. And we just traced over the photographs. We had some check dimensions. We got floor-to-floor heights inside, so we had a rough idea of accuracy for the whole thing, and we just literally just traced over that, and that was from no more than an hour and a half on site on that particular day, and traced in quite a lot of detail, as you can see from our fellow here, carved over the doorway. And again, we've got styles, and we were experimenting on this with different ways of representing stonework in something that was more representative of a freehand style. So this is a style that we've created completely from scratch for the stonework, and likewise with the tiles on the roof, just to try and give this old building a softer feel, rather than have the crisp, sharp lines that you very often are restricted with in CAD systems. And there are other ways that you can represent materials like this in styles. You can actually, we could have actually plotted this photograph as part of the material style, so we could have sampled the stonework here, for example, and set up a material, a line style based just on that image. Okay. If we look at our document organizer here, we have a number of panels, and one of the ones we've got here is this raster panel. So all of the survey photographs that we took are listed here. If you right-click, we can get a preview of those. So the way that we can work with our photographs is quite simply, we just click on the photo that we want and just drag it into the drawing. And we can then, let's say, if we set the resolution to something a bit more realistic for scaling up to 1:1, let's say 1:10. And again, we've got a more detailed area of this particular elevation that we can trace over more accurately if we need to. And once we've done with those, we can either choose to delete them, or we can go back to the layer that we've placed those photos on, turn them off if we want, or we can, as we've done here, we've set them to a screen-only status so that they won't plot. But we're just going to make them invisible now to return to our original state with this project. Okay, so close that one down. Choose not to save the changes. The next project we're going to look at is a housing development that was a conversion of a farm. And in this particular case, the drawing that I want to open is the proposed GA, so just double-click on that. And we get the GA plan. Again, it's drawn here as a presentation drawing, and we could have done equally as we did before. We could have used just the simple line styles if we want to produce this as a construction drawing. And again, these are all styles that we've set up. So for example, we've actually set up a style here for these paving slabs so that we can, obviously when we zoom in very close it becomes less realistic, but for the scale of the plot that you're going to produce, you get a very realistic effect. And again, the coping stones, this is all just done with a line style, and the sets around here, these are not individually drawn, it's just a style that's set up, and then we can reuse it as many times as we want. In this and in any other project that we want to work on, we can actually copy styles from project to project. What we're going to look at is an extension of the raster tools that we just looked at briefly on the mill conversion. I'm going to snap on this tree here just to make that the current layer. If we look at our raster folder here, we have a number of trees that we can use, and we can literally just take our trees, drag them onto the drawing, and if we set the resolution to inches, and I think we want something like 4 would give us a reasonable size enlargement of the tree. and that positions the tree on the drawing, and it respects the transparency of the background so that we can continue to see the graphics. Actually, in this case, they're drawn over the tree, but if I just copy that tree, you'll see that the tree itself, the surrounding, is transparent. So we can do hand-drawn images, we can use photographs such as this, or we can use 3D models and render from the top to create these accurate representations for producing really very polished landscaping layouts for presentation purposes. I'll just do one more. Let's just do this hedge here, turning around the corner. Plug that in. Again, set the resolution to 4. Done OK. And this time we'll just move it so that it's angled around the corner of the building. So just by pressing Enter, I get a transformation dialog. I can rotate the object and position it on the drawing in the location that I want to see. We're going to use this project to look at our first example of working with AutoCAD data. And we can choose to open the original survey drawing, which was produced in AutoCAD by a survey company. So if we just do File, Open, set our file type to DWG, and if we look at Consultants, Surveys, and we can just open our survey drawing. It gives us some settings that we can change here, and the key one really is the units, whether we want to work in millimeters or meters, and that will depend entirely on the units that we use when the AutoCAD drawing was originally created. I'm just going to leave them as they are, click on OK, and our AutoCAD drawing is opened. And as we can see, the surveyor here created multiple versions of the file, but the one we're interested in is the area here. And the colours don't show up very well on a white background, and that's because this was drawn in AutoCAD with a black background set, so we'll just show you how that works. And all I need to do is just edit the colour, choosing the colour I want, and let's set it to black, and we can see that if you want to work on a black background, you can do so quite easily, or indeed any colour that you prefer to choose. I think the latest versions of AutoCAD products are using a charcoal grey instead of a black as their background colour. Once you've got your DWG in MicroGDS, you can treat it exactly as if it's a MicroGDS drawing. So if we look at our list of layers, for example, we can choose to work on one of those layers that we've imported, or we can choose to create a new layer. We're going to look at doing that a little bit later on. You can see that the layers are mostly editable, so we can modify some of the graphics on the drawing so you can see how that works. So for example, if we look at this rectangle here, which represents a small building, we can just click and select it and drop it into another location. Or we can choose to delete it if we're demolishing that, for example. And likewise, we can edit things like this wall here, which if we want to adjust the length of the wall, I just do the box move, so I can alter all 3 lines in one go. Let's get rid of that stub there. So we can manipulate the AutoCAD data in MicroGDS as if it was created in MicroGDS originally. There's absolutely no problem with doing that at all. And we're going to be looking a little bit at some other work we can do with DWGs in a few more steps a little bit down the line. In fact, in the next section here. I'm going to close all of these. So if we close the original man file, it's prompting me to save it because it knows I've opened a DWG and it's suggesting I save it as a MicroGDS file, but I won't, I'll cancel. Sorry, I'll choose not to. And we'll close the project down. Again, without saving our changes.